Even if you're asking questions, even if you're unsure of things, you can ask questions in a definitive way. I'll say it again. You can be inquisitive, but in a definitive way. Hey guys, Hector Castillo-Poppy from girlschase.com. Here today, I'm going to talk about tone and whether or not you have the right tone for being persuasive. So right there, you saw an example of the up tone, which is one of the tones that I want to talk about that makes people really unpersuasive and unsexy when you're dealing with women. And the up tone is what I just demonstrated there, is when you have a tonality and then it goes up and it asks, it seems like you're asking a question even when you're making statements. And it's a lot of times it's a reflexive thing. I notice I do it when I'm talking to someone and then I see like their face, like if it's a girl like I'm just randomly talking to, I just say something, and as I'm going through the sentence, she's like surprised that I'm talking to her or something, and then I go, and I question, like, am I really talking to a stranger? Or if I see that someone is kind of questioning it, or I'm not so sure about what I'm saying, and we all have moments of insecurity, and so I'm not gonna come off like you have to be constantly some fucking smooth ass salesman and everything you say is fucking perfect. But when you use that uptone, it comes off like you're asking, it's the same tone you use to ask a question. Not always, but it's like a very, I'm curious about your answer, and I really wanna know what you have to say. And it can be useful, and it can very clearly communicate you care about what someone says. But if you use it in instances where you want to be persuasive, like you're asking a girl out, and you could be you're asking a girl to go home, you're giving a girl a compliment, you're giving her an opinion, it can come off terribly unpersuasive and as if you're not sure of what you're saying. And a lot of communication with girls is, yes, what you say is important. You can say some dumb shit really confidently and it's still dumb. But you need to speak in a way where she feels like you truly believe what you're saying. That's what confidence in a large part means. It's not just confidence in yourself. It's kind of vague. It's confidence in the things that you say. You are sure of what you say when you say it. The other tone that I think most guys are using that causes them to be very unpersuasive is they're just having a high tone in general. Now, not everyone's gonna have a super deep voice, but there's times when, especially I noticed it happens when I haven't yet talked to anyone that day. I've talked to 0 souls. I woke up, I ate some food. I'm not randomly talking to myself sometimes, but not normally. I haven't had my self-conversation that day. My demon didn't wake up yet. And I go out and having not uttered a single word, except for hello to the guard or, hello to someone, I see a girl that I wanted to talk to. And I'm always like, I'm like, okay, I haven't said anything yet today, but then I'm not just gonna immediately start talking to myself, right? Maybe every day when you wake up, you should just practice speaking so you don't have your first word. But I would walk up to a girl and I would just be like, hey, how are you? And I catch myself because when you don't hear yourself talk for so long, you haven't, tone checked yourself. When you're like tuning a guitar, you haven't tuned yourself, right? Like you kind of forget how you sound when you talk. And so if it's like the first thing I said, or I haven't talked to a girl all day, it's my first approach, I'll just have an uptone. Or when I'm surprised, like if I'm walking and a girl just suddenly walks past me and I didn't see her and I want to open, I'm like, oh my God, you're so pretty. And it's like, okay, the effort was there, Hector, but the sexiness wasn't there, right? Okay, so I want to go over how you can fix that. Okay, so let's start with the uptone. The only time that you should be using an uptone to be persuasive is when you're genuinely asking a question or you're leading someone to a conclusion like I am right now, right? It kind of has a similar tone there. So if I ask you a question and I say, what's your favorite color? It's an uptone, right? And it's that interrogative tone at the end makes you, like you have social instincts and it's a question. But then I can do the same thing with leading you to a conclusion, and you can feel me kind of starting to get there, and I'm ending on an uptone, and then I say what I have to say. Your voice is an instrument that is going to communicate the depth or the solidness of your statement, like the hardness of it, much more clearly than the actual words you're using. And when you recognize that your voice is an instrument that you can play very interestingly, you can use it in ways that are very creative, and you can start to change your tones as you're talking. You can change your speed and your volume, and you can get louder, and then if you want to get more serious, you can get kind of quiet, and then you can kind of start to use tones to lead someone towards a conclusion. And then you said, like, just pay attention to my tones. Everything that I just said was just, it was true, but it was just, I'm rambling for the sake of teaching you tone. Listen to my tones. So when you're giving a compliment, when you're asking a girl out, don't use that up tone so much. I want you to use more of a drop tone. So let's say I'm asking a girl out. So one way to do is, you want to get coffee? Okay, you're at least asking her out, but it's not so good. Do you want to get coffee? There's still the little round up at the end, but it was much more, all right? And one way that you can avoid this actually is to avoid questions, because naturally we're going to attach this tone to questions, but you can start using statements. When you ask girls out, you can suggest it. We should get a coffee sometime. Let's grab a coffee sometime. It's much more easy to attach that drop tone at the end of your sentence when it's not a question. When you're trying to be persuasive is when this is the most necessary, because when you're being persuasive, you need to sell it. So asking her out, or the big one is when you're asking a girl home. Asking a girl out is pretty, she's just enjoying it. When you ask a girl home, for me, that's like, I'll build it up in my mind as we're on a date. And that's like the moment when you gotta really sell it. And I'll really try to like, okay, I need to give this very beautifully. So you'll be talking to her and you go, hey, like, what are you up to? Oh, I just got to do this and that, but I don't know, I'm not up to anything this afternoon, really. Okay, you're screening for logistics, as we say. Okay, cool. Well, hey, if you want, we could like go back to my place and we can hang out and watch a movie. You see the uncertainty of my tone there. Now, there is one benefit to it, is it's not pushy, and that's what we're afraid of doing. We're afraid of being pushy. But it's not as sexy and confident as it would be if you were a bit more, you're not gonna be like, okay, listen here. We're gonna go back to my place in 15 minutes. After 10 minutes, you're gonna be sucking my dick. And okay, so you're not gonna be like planning it out with her, right? But you are going to tell her, even if you're asking her, if that makes sense. So as you're speaking with her, same question. What are you doing for the rest of the night? See? Now, what are you doing for the rest of the night? Now, there can be creativity, and we'll go to that in a second, because not every personality is going to be like, hoodoo. I get it. Ask that question, she tells you, okay. Well, hey, since you're not doing anything, we can go back to my place and hang out, maybe watch a movie. Maybe you can suck my dick. Much more persuasive. Now, if you're actually willing to add that last part on, it's up to you. I don't know. I've made it work, but it's definitely difficult. So when the moment of persuasion comes, the pivotal moment, asking her out, asking her home, anything where you're trying to be persuasive, even if you're selling, you want to be careful about how much you use the interrogative tone, the up tone at the end. Okay, so now with regards to the high tone in general, it has one advantage, like the uptone. The uptone is not pushy. The high tone, it's very friendly and it's very harmless. And harmlessness it's nice. And that's what I think a lot of us think is being nice. You can be nice without being harmless, of course. And it can be very friendly, especially with people that you don't really know too well and you don't want to yet offend them. And there is a such thing as social cues of playing it cool and not yet like coming in, full personality. There is room for feeling people out and kind of just being a little bit more nice than you normally would be for the sake of politeness. I think everyone recognizes that. You should always be fucking tough, right? I noticed a tick that I have sometimes is I'll end my sentences with right. It doesn't even, people do it. I've seen actors and people who say, you're talking and you say, and you don't even think of it, right? It's a verbal expression or verbal manifestation maybe of the uptone, but it has more to it, right? See? So pay attention to your tics. Of course, you're not going to be perfect all the time, and there can be relatability in your non-perfectness all the time, right? And I'll get to that in just a second as we finish. But aside from just being polite and being kind of like gentle, I don't want to say meek, but gentle, you want to eliminate the high tone from your tonal vocabulary as much as possible. And you want to start speaking more definitively. Even if you're asking questions, even if you're unsure of things, you can ask questions in a definitive way. I'll say it again. You can be inquisitive, but in a definitive way. What's the best tone for me to have? What instances should I use this tone, and when should I use this tone? See, I'm asking questions, but in a definitive way. And that's going to make you more respectable as a person, and it's going to make you more attractive to women, because women are very largely hearing your attractiveness. They're seeing it, they're smelling it, they're hearing it, they're feeling it, and sometimes they're tasting it. So that's uptone and that's high tone. You want to start replacing those with definitive drops and end tones that are very like, I'm sure there's more linguistically accurate ways to put this, but you fucking understand what I'm saying. End it like this. You drop the tone at the end and you finish it. Now, personality. There's room for personality in this, of course. Okay, sometimes you're gonna be talking to you really fast and you're gonna kind of, maybe your voice is gonna crack and it's gonna happen, okay? What makes you a seductive person is making yourself mostly attractive. You're not always gonna be perfect, you're not always gonna be smooth and ultra persuasive. Women don't require perfection. I know sometimes it feels that way because this can be kind of hard and women can be very picky, but you don't have to be perfect. You just need to start making small improvements as much as you can, paying attention to your voice always. The more you pay attention to yourself and the more vigilant you are in your thoughts and your actions and your habits, the more control you have over it and the better you're going to make yourself. Just like you go to the gym every day, I want you to go to your voice gym every day and be watching how you speak. That being said, you can also make your vocal imperfections, but we'll call it your personality, more sexy. You can use them in interesting ways. And you can start to, like I gave it the example with the uptone, I can use it to draw you into this thought, and then I can say this thing, and then I end it like this. You're not always gonna speak and I think that this is kind of what's sold by some people who give advice, and I've been guilty of it myself, the hyper masculinity, where you always need to talk like this, and you need to look someone in the eye, and you need to always be very certain way. There's room for fucking personality. You don't always have to be speaking that way, okay? You can sometimes be kind of eccentric and kind of wild, and sometimes you can be kind of, willy-nilly with the way that your body language and your voice is coming off. It's not a static, we all need to be fucking 5-star general grizzly voice seducers, okay? There's definitely room for much more creativity when it comes to being sexy and persuasive with women. However, when it comes to persuasive moments where persuasion is going to help you, asking her to come home with you, or you're starting to touch her up a little bit, and she's like, oh, and you say, yeah, I think you're really sexy. I think you're, I just want to fuck you so much. Like, those moments, being persuasive in your tone, and that means confident in your tone, sure in your tone, telling her what you want, that moment is going to be much more likely to work because she can tell through your tone that you are sure of yourself, and it will then thereby be more persuasive. So drop your uptones, drop your high tones for the most part, but of course you're gonna have imperfections, and start to play with your voice as an instrument and learn how to make your own personality into a sexy, playful, charming, seductive, what the fuck ever tonality. And you don't have to be one static type of tonality. But in those moments, be persuasive and be confident and be sure and be decisive. And end your sentences like this so that people feel as if you know what you're talking about, whether or not you actually do. But hopefully you do. Cool. Hector Castillo, Poppy from girlschase.com, teaching you how to master your voice so you can... Perfect! Fuck you, David. God damn it. It's always the ending. It's always the end. Okay. Fuck me. Fuck you. Bye. Hector Castillo, Poppy, girlschase.com. Subscribe? Like the video? Ring the bell?